Council meeting for today, Tuesday, May 28th at 6:35. Please stand for the pledge and then remain standing for our invocation after that and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Well, God, our Father, we gather here in this room to thank you, first of all, for these people who have the gift of administration. Father, as they dream, as they think, as they consider stewardship, Father, as they dream of how families can flourish and how they can grow and children can continue to thrive, Father, we ask your blessings upon all that takes place this evening. Pray for wisdom and guidance in all these things, and we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you all. Mr. January, could you call the roll, please? Council?
Yes, Mr. President. Vice President Neal.
Here.
Councilwoman Haynes Edwards.
Present.
Councilwoman Chandler Felton.
Present.
Councilwoman Uselak.
Present.
Councilman Pettit.
Here.
Councilwoman Hardaway.
Present.
President Bella.
Here.
7 present.
7 present. Moving on to petitions, communications, acknowledgements, and remonstrations. Mr. Svetnoff, I believe you had a letter.
I had a statement I'd like to read into the record, Council President. At the Town Council meeting on May 14, 2024, a first reading ordinance was introduced and a vote was taken to consider the reestablishment of the town court and repeal early ordinances closing same. As the vote was taken, there were 3 votes in favor of reestablishing the town court, 3 votes against closing the town court, and 1 abstention from same. As defined within Merriam-Webster Dictionary, the phrase abstention means a refusal to vote. As discussed within Robert's Rules of Order, to abstain literally means to refrain from voting. In the usual situation, where a majority vote is required, abstentions usually have no effect on the outcome of the vote, since what is required is a majority of the votes cast. On the other hand, under Indiana code, if the vote required is a majority of the members elected present, an abstention will have the same effect as a no vote. Practically, this means that it takes 4 affirmative yes votes to take any action. The only caveat is to this rule that the clerk treasurer can break a tie vote on the town council only when there are, for any reason, an even number of councilmen present. In this instance, clerk treasurers become an ex officio member of the town council for the sole purpose of casting a tie-breaking vote. However, the clerk treasurer also has the option to abstain from voting. Robert's Rules of Order also is very clear that a member cannot be compelled to vote. Additionally, under the seminal case of Indiana Court of Appeals, Evansville versus Fehrenbach, the issue presented was whether a tie vote by the town council and the failure of the town council to grant or deny the ordinance for a period of 90 days required the ordinance to be granted under Indiana code. In determining this issue, the court considered the meaning of a term majority. The court found by using the language concerning the majority, the legislator intended to provide a specific means by which the town council could act. The court stated, regardless of whether a majority of the quorum or some greater majority is required, it is clear that a requirement of the type of majority is a requirement that, on any given question, either an affirmative receive more votes than a negative, or negative more votes than the affirmative. The court further stated that because of the affirmative did not receive a greater portion of the votes than the negative, the ordinance was not adopted. Here, under Indiana Code 35-5-2-9.6, provides that a majority of the legislative body is required to pass an ordinance unless a greater vote is required by statute. The ordinance to reestablish the Merrillville Town Court did not receive a majority vote that night. Accordingly, as discussed under Fehrenbach and enumerated under Indiana Code and the ordinance was not adopted. So at this time, this was the thinking behind and the reasoning behind why the town court ordinance to reestablish failed. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Joe.
Can I reply, Mr. President?
Go ahead, Eric.
No, okay, this is particularly addressing what my concern is. We have adopted the Robert's Rules of Order dating back to an ordinance in 1972. We have had a number of instances where the clerk has had to pass the tie-breaking vote. And based on everything that I've read and all of the counsel that I've received, I should have been entitled to pass the vote that day. I understand what you just read. I don't know if that's accurate or not. I'm still going to pursue legal counsel just to make sure that it's accurate, because I believe that I should have been able to cast a tie-breaking vote, and I was denied that opportunity. So
We invite you to do that, but just remember, I've stated Robert's Rules of Order tonight, I've stated Indiana Code, and I've stated Indiana case law regarding this. So the
Right.
issue should be settled.
no, I have to read it for myself. And
Well,
then it
please,
will, and
we
then it
invite
will
you to
be
do
settled,
so.
because right now it's not settled.
We invite you to do
So,
so.
yes, we should be having a second reading for it.
Okay, moving on tonight to the Employee of the Month for the month of May. Mr. Griffin.
Mr. President, thank you.
I was careful not to expose anything.
I'm going to invite Ms. Sheila Shine, who is the Director of Planning and Building for the town of Merrillville. And also, we would like to recognize Marie Wilson, please, who is an employee of that department and an Employee of the Month.
All right.
See, as she comes up, it really kind of goes to what I wanted to offer before I recognize the department head, to actually read the citation that's been prepared for her in recognition of her exemplary service to the town of Merrillville. Beverly Sills is now deceased, but at one time she was considered one of the best soprano singers of all time, American soprano singers, I should add, especially during the late 60s and early 70s. Later on, she retired to head the Metropolitan Opera of New York, and then she deceased a few years after she retired from that role. She is famous for saying, "There are no shortcuts to any place worth going." That made me think of you, Miss Wilson. I looked for this so I could recall it properly, and I still needed to write it down, because she's not a shortcut kind of person. And whether she said it verbally or not, the consummate of her actions, the aggregation of her actions, is someone who doesn't believe that anything worth doing should be done by shortcuts. Now, that's not to say she doesn't try to be efficient and do things well, but she's just not somebody who does things by short shrift, which is recognized in her being recognized this evening. I'm going to invite the department head to read the citation, and then I will present her with the gift from the council.
Certificate of Recognition, Employee of the Month, May 2024. This certificate is proudly presented to Marie Wilson. Marie embodies the epitome of an outstanding employee. Her unparalleled work ethic sets her apart as she consistently goes above and beyond expectations in every task she undertakes. Her proactive approach and communication skills inspire those around her. She has a remarkable ability to adapt to changes, especially in a fast-paced planning and building department. Marie's kind nature and willingness to learn makes her not just an asset to the department, but to the town of Merrillville. Awarded this 28th day of May 2024, Michael Griffin, Town Manager, and Kathleen Pettit, HR Director. I do want to say one more thing about Marie. That building report that you all get every month, Marie prepares it, and it is so important that she gets it done either by the first or the second. She comes in every day early so that she can make sure that it's done. Right, Marie?
I thank the council.
Thank you. Thank you. There is a, Town Council acknowledges receipt of the timeline for the Andrean and Boys and Girls Club incentives. Mr. Pettit, do you want to comment more during the council meeting here?
Yes, Mr. President, this is something that we had been talking about. Number one, we've been talking about the Boys and Girls Club. As everyone knows, they purchased through Joe Svetnoff's assistance, the Boys and Girls Club in Northwest Indiana bought the 3-acre Lot 2, I believe it is, Joe, at the Dean and Barbara White Community Center. And they intend to build their own club there when funds are available. And it's always been the desire of this council and the previous council to assist them for Merrillville residents in doing a gift, as it were, out of the TIF proceeds. Bond counsel Tom Pittman from Barnes and Thornburg has put together this proposed timeline, which includes not only the Boys and Girls Club incentives, but also an incentive for Andrean to be specifically used for access improvements. And I would remind the council, and actually Council President and Chief Nueces, that we owe Andrean and the Gary Diocese a commitment letter, on-town letterhead signed by, to make that official. They gave us their commitment that they are going to stay at 5900 Broadway and make a large investment into that school through private donations and fundraising. So I think it's imperative upon us that we take care of this, begin this process, and then issue that letter. In fact, we received an email, and I've invited Councilor Hardaway, since it's actually in her ward. The diocese wants to sit back down with the town and with the apartment complex to the north, their leadership, and talk about concerns they've got up there, Chief, okay? So get with Angie and Michael. We'll mark our calendars as to when that meeting is going to take place, but this is the start of the process that will end at the end of July and get those two gifts put into place.
Very good. Questions or comments from the council?
I have a question.
Mr. January.
Yes. And the question pertains to giving gifts. And we are borrowing money to give gifts to not-for-profit organizations that are not going to generate any tax dollars. How much sense does that?
We're not giving, it's off the top of the TIF draw, Eric. You and Michael will get a draw the 1st of July and January 1st. We generate approximately, our TIF districts, our allocation areas generate approximately $9.1 million. I have absolutely no problem keeping that school up there and giving it to the Boys Girls Club. I'll do it 7 days a week and twice on Sunday.
We're not borrowing.
I put my blood, sweat, and tears into this town for 21 years.
What is
Spending
this,
TIF money is not a big deal.
It is a
need to
big
get-
deal.
What are we going to use it for, Eric?
We have to repay that money. That's
We don't have
money-
to repay that. That's
Taxpayers-
taxpayers. My
taxpayers are
tax
repaying that.
dollars in my subdivision are going into the Mississippi Street allocation area. My $2,900 tax bill a year.
Sure.
I have no problem sending it up there. I sent my daughter to Andrean. Keisha sent her kids to Andrean. It's not, we
There are other
don't owe
private
the money
schools.
back.
There are other private schools in the town. Are we going to give them money too?
They haven't made the ask.
Okay, we
We've
shouldn't.
waived fees.
We shouldn't. We shouldn't be in the business of giving away other people's money to other people. That's just not prudent business. This is not economic development.
But it's
not
okay to
bringing
give the
any
Merrillville
jobs.
schools $400,000 a year.
It is
I
economic
didn't-
development, though.
It is.
No,
It is
that
economic
that is
development.
not
Have that
economic
school,
development.
they're empty.
It's
Sure
a
it is.
school. We can do something.
The north part of
Well,
town.
Yeah, it is the north side part of the town, and I'm not arguing that they probably need some sort of investment. But just to give money to an organization that's not generating any money whatsoever, that causes budget problems.
So
And
what
that's why
about,
we're talking
what about the Boys
court,
and Girls
not-
Club
not
after
being
school
able to afford
program,
the
Eric?
court.
What about the Boys and Girls Club? They need
They
$8 million
operate
to
all
build their
over the
club.
country. The YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, they got way more money than the town of Merrillville.
Okay, well, this was approved by the council, so,
Yeah, I'm just making the comment.
okay. Anything else, Mr. Pettit?
No.
All right. We have the Town Council nomination for Economic Development Commission member.
Make a motion, we nominate Angie Chilcott as the Economic Development Director to this commission, required by the timetable.
Are there any other nominees? Hearing no other nominees, I will ask for a motion to approve Mr. Pettit's nomination of Angie Chilcott to serve on the town's Economic Development Commission. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Well, I need a motion, actually. Mr. Pettit, would you make the motion?
Motion to appoint Angie Chilcott to the Economic Development Commission.
Thank you.
Mr.
Any
President,
questions?
I beg the council's pardon. That should still reflect the nomination. This is one of those unusual elements in the Indiana law because a nomination has to be made by the council and still has to be done by a vote. This nomination does require a motion and second, and then the nomination is acted on by you as municipal executive to accept the nomination and make the appointment or not. I expect you'll make the appointment, but I just want to make sure that the wording is correct for our minutes.
Sure.
And I thank the council for your forbearance.
So that was a motion by Mr. Pettit. Who made the second?
No one, I second.
Ms. Haynes Edwards? Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Griffin, for the guidance. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. So the president's nomination and appointment, I should say, will be Angie Chilcott to the Economic Development Commission. Congratulations, Angie.
Now, Mr. President, one other item. Angie and Michael helped me out with this. I believe there's also a Lake County, we need a citizen nominated by Lake County Economic Development, do we not, Michael?
With your leave, Mr. President, I would be happy to answer the councilor's question.
Absolutely.
There still has to be an appointment made by the president who is nominated by the president. That can be done in the meeting or it can be done outside because your role as municipal executive is attained by holding the office. There is a third member of this commission that does require a nomination from the full fiscal body of the council, the Lake County County Council. It was our belief that that would take a little while to get that process because they have to do it in an open meeting just as you have. And it was the advice of our bond council that we can get by with 2 commissioners provided they agree. So you'll have enough of a quorum for the Economic Development Commission to meet according to the timetable, and presumably they'll be able to act in concert. Once that's done, we'll be fine. And then we'll take steps to see, when I get a consensus of a candidate that you think is fine, that we'll suggest that nominee to the council. And once we get that, we can actually fill the 3rd seat. That's just more involved under that
I think the
statute.
Lake County Council would actually have to make the
Yes.
recommendation.
That is correct.
We would either accept or reject.
That is correct.
So, and I could reach out to the Lake County Council's attorney
Okay, sure.
to see where they are in that process.
So then who's the second member?
I think that's up to the president.
We don't have one yet.
Okay. Rick, you'll make that appointment. Okay.
And it was interesting to learn, too, is that could be a resident, a citizen, it could be a member of the council, it could be another town employee, so there's a lot of options available. So I really want to give that some thought. We'll be brainstorming. Thank you, guys. Moving on tonight to public hearings. Attorney Svetnoff.
I'm sorry, Mr. President.
The proof of ad for,
The proof of publication has been reviewed, and we are good to go with any public hearing tonight here, Mr. President.
so I'll open up for public hearing on ordinance 24-12. And that is ordinance authorizing additional appropriations in the 2024 budget engineering fees fund. We had a public hearing on the 28th. That's today, right?
Yes.
Doing it now. Is there any public comment on this particular ordinance? Hearing none. I'll entertain a motion for approval of this ordinance.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Uselak, a second by Mrs. Neal. for approval of ordinance 24-12. Questions or comments? This is a second reading ordinance. Hearing no other comments, Mr. January, would you call the roll, please?
Sure, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Vice President Neal,
Yes.
Councilwoman Haynes Edwards,
Yes.
Councilwoman Chandler Felton,
Aye.
Councilwoman Uselak,
Aye.
Councilman Pettit,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hardaway,
Aye.
President Bella.
Aye.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, that motion carries. Thank you all. Moving on tonight to the consent agenda, we had the accounts payable register voucher approval for May 28th, the AP register summary for ARP purchases for May 28th, the approval of the town council meeting minutes of May 14th, and a memorandum request for waiver of charges for the Neal Group Annual Give Back Football Camp.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Mr. Pettit,
Second.
second Ms. Haynes Edwards, for approval of the consent agenda. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to standing committees, Budget and Finance, Counselor Neal.
Thank you, President Bella. We had our last Budget and Finance meeting on the 24th of May, and we have our next one coming up around June 17th. We're entering into budget season, so we have a lot of meetings coming up. And that's all.
Thank you. Council Affairs, Mr. Pettit.
Yes, Mr. President, we have several ordinances on second reading that the committee went through, and then we'll have another batch of ordinances. Joe, just let Ricardo, you and Ricardo let me know, and we'll call a committee meeting, okay?
Okay.
Street Department, Counselor Uselak.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President.
Ma'am.
I am working with Mr. King on the street bumps. I think that's what you call them, right?
Humps.
Humps,
Speed
okay.
humps.
Yeah, okay, we've got a lot of different streets in the 4th Ward that I have given to him, and he will be on top of that. And then we have a lot of speeders that have been knocking down mailboxes, which I did call the chief on. And we have a lot of other issues, including dogs running loose. I called the chief on that too, which he got right on top of it. But right now, the street department is looking good. Thank you.
Mr. President, through Mrs. Uselak to Steve. Steve, I noticed the Tiger mower was out on 93rd Avenue today. Is that back in service then?
Yes.
Okay, and I've also noticed, and I know we're kind of limited, but, and with all this rain, some of the rights-of-way, the curb lines are really high, and you don't know where the person's property line ends and our right-of-way begins, and cutting some of that stuff, so I know you guys are
A lot of
trying to.
discussion on this, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Last I talked to Steve, he was going to call NDOT and tell them that their grass is tall.
We did, so
yeah,
I,
they,
we
yeah,
did.
Those
they're- yeah,
areas.
NDOT looks bad too.
Yeah, I talked to NDOT, Sheila actually talked to NDOT too, and I think this week they said their mowing contractor is supposed to be out
Right,
along
their
Broadway.
contract hadn't started yet with the,
Really?
yeah,
It's
so,
June 1st. Just-
yeah. He said it should start this week.
They only do it twice a year along Broadway. That's all they've ever done.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
And you'll know when they come through, because they'll leave their mess all over Broadway.
Oh, and one more question, Steve. What about the underground tanks? Did NDOT take care of that?
That is not NDOT. That's a company called Northern Mechanical. They've applied to the state for the proper permitting to get the tanks removed, and we're just waiting on that to come. I've submitted a request to the ARP committee for funding to have them removed. I don't know when the next ARP committee is, but I've submitted the funding for those. I've submitted the quotes and everything, so just waiting on the permitting from the state and funding from the ARP committee.
Okay, thank you.
So while we're still on streets, if you don't mind, Steve, is there any way we can contact NDOT? Ask them to change the length of time that the lights are working for northbound and southbound traffic on the streets where they're doing the paving. Because what's happening is the cross cuts are causing motorists to slow down, obviously, for the bumps. And what's happening then, only 2 or 3 vehicles are getting through, the light changes, now there's cars in the intersection, the other traffic wants to go, and it's causing a big mess out there. I think everyone's afraid of that little drop-off. It's not going to hurt the vehicle, but it's loud and it sounds
Yep.
bad. So, but if they could lengthen the time of those lights to let more traffic through just during this construction time,
Yep.
or until they get those lanes done, that might help us out.
Okay, got it.
Thank you, Steve.
Mr. President, I have one thing. Mr. King, in your report, can you talk about the update on 61st Avenue?
I can.
Okay, I appreciate
Yes.
it. Thank you.
Yes.
Elections, Public Relations, and Town Beautification, Vice President Neal.
Thank you, President Bella. We are still meeting with Robertson Engineering, and our next meeting is scheduled for June 3rd, and we're actually going to meet with ASI Signage to go ahead and move forward with creating our slogan and moving forward with getting everything going with the towns and the signs and everything. So that's coming along really good. We have scheduled meetings every 2 weeks to make sure that we're doing good progress with getting everything going. And I just wanted to say to Counselor Chandler Felton in her ward, they've set the example of how a community can come together and make their own ward look nice. So to the Chrissy Holtz and her husband, they have decorated very beautifully over there. They keep it up nice. It's just very nice to even just drive past and to see it. And so they have truly set an example of how all of our communities need to come together to keep our own individual subdivisions, very nice and upkept. So thank you to that.
Right.
And that's all.
Thank you. Environmental Affairs, Mr. Pettit.
I have one comment, Mr. President, then I'll defer to Vice President Neal. Michael, do we know, we're no longer getting a call from Waste Management. So yesterday was a holiday. So they were not collecting yesterday, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I have not gotten a phone call. We used to get the phone call. We used to get the notice on what their holiday schedules were. So if you're a collection on Monday, you should have been picked up today. And once again, the communication, everybody knows how I feel about Waste Management. So again, I'll defer to Vice President Neal for Lake County Solid Waste.
Oh.
Did I catch you off guard? Right?
Yeah, you did, actually.
I don't have anything else for Environmental
Well,
Affairs.
she'll have a report
Yeah.
later.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have a report
All right.
a little bit later with them. Thank you.
Personnel Policy and Employee Benefits,
Thank you, Mr. President.
Counselor Hardaway.
I jumped the gun. Thank you, Mr. President. We have several job openings at the community center for site supervisor and front desk. Other than that, I don't have anything at this time, because we will have a report from the community center, interim director later.
Thank you. Public Safety, Ms. Hardaway.
Thank you again, Mr. President. At this time, I have no report because I need to speak with Chief Nucis. Thank you.
Economic Development, Mr. Pettit.
Yes, Mr. President, we had a redevelopment commission meeting before this. We are purchasing security measures here at Town Hall via Tri-Electronics that was approved out of the Mississippi Street allocation area. We also passed a resolution that we do every year asking for the maximum amount of increment possible to be calculated by Lake County so that we get our the most amount we can get. So that being said, that will take care of my report. We already took care of the other economic development earlier.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation, Counselor Uselak.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a park on 73rd Avenue. It's called Independence Hill Park. It does not belong to Merrillville. It belongs, from what I hear, to the trustee's office. It is in dire need of mowing. There are weeds about 5 feet high. People are complaining about it. It's an eyesore. So I hope maybe we could contact the trustee and see about mowing in there. They used to call it the trap shoot years ago, but it is actually the Independence Hill Park. So we'll have to contact the trustee's office. They are in charge of the mowing there.
Oh.
From my research.
I think I knew that.
Yep,
It's immediately west of the cemetery.
right?
On the north
And
side.
on
Right
the
off
north
73rd
side
side.
of 73rd Avenue. They used to have fishing there in a little fishing pond, too. I don't know.
Let's
if they
decide
still
now
fish.
who's going to call, otherwise it's not going to happen. Assign someone to do that, please, Marge.
Well, you want me to call?
That's fine.
I'll call.
Somebody needs to call.
I will call them. Thank you. And then I have a question for Mr. Lake. We have talked about, used to be the Jennings Street Park, and we have the developer, Mr. Rodriguez, that is supposed to build there. Well, the construction material is still sitting on that property. So I know you sent him a letter, you and I have corresponded on it, but I think you're going to have to look further into it.
Yeah, I would probably recommend some kind of enforcement action through Sheila's office, since it is a planning and development aspect. So that's what I would recommend. He did confidently say he was going to start, but I'll believe when I see it, just like, So right now, it looks like it's, kind of like construction litter out there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you,
That's it for now.
Thank you. Moving on to Utility Liaison, Counselor Chandler Felton.
I have no report at this time.
Okay. Special committees tonight, Abandoned and Blighted Properties, Counselor Haynes Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report at this time. I do need to schedule a meeting with Chief Nueces.
Mr. President, one
You got
question
it.
through Shauna's committee to, I guess, Steve and Sheila. Receiving text messages from a constituent. What's the status of 6935 Broadway? It's like, this is like a reoccurring dream.
Well, the contract has gone out to Sealy for signature. I know the water service has been retired by Indiana American, and NIPSCO to retire gas and electric. You're probably 5 weeks out from that.
All right, here's what we,
Councilman Peck.
Mr. Svetnoff, with all due respect, something's got to go on down there. So I don't know how we're going to do it. Clear the trees, cut the grass, do something.
Councilman.
I mean, I pick up my phone and every other day I'm getting something from Joe Berger, and I can't blame him, quite frankly. It's
Well, we-
ridiculous.
we can get-
Something. Go cut the grass, Steve, or chainsaw or something. I don't know
We
what.
can get, so we're in the process. We're gonna have somebody clear the trees. We gotta have the property surveyed now and the property corners established. So we make sure we're clearing what we're supposed to be doing. It's so overgrown, you can't tell what's what. So we're gonna get the property corners staked. Once those are staked, we can let a contractor loose in there to
I don't
take
think
care of it.
anybody's gonna have a problem with you cutting the grass over there, so you don't need a
So
stake
is that-
survey to
so
cut the grass.
Is that, you want us to do that?
If we have to do it right now, cut the grass, chop the trees. Mr. Pettit, what I suggest is if you can make a phone call.
I'm going to call NIPSCO. I'm going to call Rick
Rick
Kalinsky tomorrow
Kalinsky.
morning.
And see
I'm
if
not
the
waiting 5 weeks for
and see if the
NIPSCO.
service can be shut off quicker. But it does present a problem if the service is not shut off.
Correct.
You can.
Because then we have a public health, safety, and welfare issue.
Did they say why it would take 5 weeks?
Because that's what NIPSCO is doing now. It took that long or longer to get the NIPSCO cut off across the street at the funeral home. It's just where they're running.
Yeah, just.
Which
that-
obviously goes to
Takes
Leona's
forever.
committee on utility, where we need to have a sit-down on NIPSCO and some of these issues. They waited at the big box south of my subdivision. They finally got their meter, Angie told me. How many, like a week ago? Something like that, 2 weeks ago. That building's been up. They've been waiting on switch gears. They give me this, they give me that. But they had no problem cashing the $6 million check from Crow Holdings to build the substation at 101st.
I'm not
We
advocating. for-
keep getting the runaround from NIPSCO is the
Well-
problem.
Well, then, what I think we need to do is, through the utility committee, establish some sort of direct communication or contact with NIPSCO instead of calling up Rick Kalinsky.
Yeah.
That we can go through to get these emergency situations dealt with. This house, this abandoned and blighted buildings process has been sorely slowed down by these kind of outside forces.
I would recommend, Leona, that your next committee meeting, Michael, that we had the one with Indiana American Water, I thought went fairly well. We sat and talked with them. NIPSCO needs to be next on the radar, and Alexius Barber is our contact, not Rick. I mean, I know Rick from other capacity, but
Sure.
that needs to probably be the contact, Michael, is Alexis Barber, and have a sit down and figure out, what's going on with them.
Okay.
If there's no objection, Mr. President, I will handle that, copying the chair of the Utility Liaison Committee.
Please do, thank you. Moving on tonight to the Semi-Quincentennial Committee. Counselor Haynes Edwards.
You're getting better at that.
I am, I've been practicing
And I have nothing to report, Mr. President.
after all that. Special Town Projects, Vice President Neal.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have our Juneteenth celebration, which will be held on June 18th at the Dean and Barber Center. We are having a family movie night with free admission that starts at 5 p.m. The showing of the two movies are in honor of the Afro-American Excellence in Cinema, and we will be showing Hidden Figures and Princess of the Frog. In addition to the movies, there will be local vendors, food trucks, and a play area will be open for the children before the event. July 3rd are our fireworks at Merrillville High School parking lot. They will begin at sundown, followed by the next day, July 4th, our annual July parade. We are still looking for organizations and businesses to participate. I was actually sent a count and did not count how many it was, so it was a nice long list, though, of applications that we've received thus far. So we're still looking for more. It's not too late for people who want to come in. And a lot of people are asking, is it free? Thank you to Shauna Haynes Edward, who has been diligently posting and pushing the information out through social media and getting a lot of responses of people going, hey, where do I sign up? How much is it? So that is free for people to participate in the actual parade. It starts at the Barber and Dean Community Center, and it heads south all the way down to 80th Place. So we're excited about that parade. And then on July the 24th, the job fair also at the Dean and Barber Community Center. It's a highly anticipated annual job fair. We have lots of employers that will be there. Job seekers will also have a chance to enter into a snag bag prize. They'll be able to get something like that. You can reiterate. Simply about, and they can also receive a free raffle or they can receive a free raffle for a laptop or a tablet. That's pretty interesting, too. The first 150 attendees will also receive a free lunch ticket to indulge in the food court, the food trucks that will be on site. So that's coming up on July the 24th. And that looks like all of the upcoming events that we have for now.
Well, that's quite a few, thank you.
Lots.
Moving on tonight to the Dean and Barbara White Community Center. Chairman, Mr. Pettit.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last Thursday, we had a committee meeting, Keisha and Shauna and I. We had staff there. Michael was there, Trista was there. We went through a variety of different progress reports, review the funding templates for the 2024 budget. Michael went through that. We talked about event center bookings and hours of use. The gymnasium hours, which everyone knows has kind of been a topic out in the community of the open gym for the kids. We talked about that, and we'll discuss that again here in June. We went through the organizational charts. At this time, and I don't mean to, Madam Chairman, we did decide to elevate Lisa Roberts to interim Parks and Recreation Director. Assistant. And then we went through some lists of the physical condition of the center, looking at the cleaning, going through all that. We had a couple motions for window cleaning and then for a comprehensive cleaning. The windows in the upper level of the walking track are very high, or above the fitness center are very high. In fact, I reached out on Friday to Structure Point, and they're supposed to get me a couple of names of people that can do that kind of work to clean the center. So again, it'll be meeting on the fourth Thursday of every month. We'll go back through some of the other things. And continue to work with Keisha and her committee on the personnel issues and hiring folks. Ladies, did I miss anything?
Nope.
Michael?
I thought it was thorough.
Okay. Just sometimes I forget.
No worries, big center.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Pettit. Moving on tonight to department and commission reports. Lake County Solid Waste Management District, VP Neal.
Thank you, President Bella, again. Our next meeting is this Thursday, the 30th. This is a replacement meeting for a council meeting that we had earlier this last week. So that meeting is at 6:30 this Thursday. They still have the free certified compost that is available. That information is also on the town website. You can, any Lake County resident can receive a half a cubic yard, and they can pick it up at 3499 Chase Street in Gary. They have to call first to let them know date and time that they're gonna be able to pick it up, and that phone number is area code 219-337-8341. And we did pick some up this past week. So,
Oh, great.
yes. And that's all.
Thank you. Northern Indiana Regional Planning Commission, that we normally call NERPC, Councilor Hardaway.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next meeting will be September 19th, so no report for NERC today.
Okay, thank you. Stormwater Management Resources, our director is Mr. Matt Lake.
Thank you. Just want to recap really quick. Grimmer Construction is working on the project at 69th and Connecticut Street. They're working at the outlet side by Skinner Pond and then working their way west. So kids will be out of school soon, so the timing is good. We already got one change order, so a couple of castings we got to redesign. Other than that, things are going pretty smoothly there. I did go to the Little Calumet River Basin Development Commission Advisory Board meeting. I presented there to try and get 50% of the construction costs for this project, even though we've started already. So I requested $239,000 from them. It was well received by the advisory board. Now it's going to go to their full commission, and I'll present again to them, and then they can make a determination on that.
Oh, great, good luck with that.
97th Grand Avenue, we are all set to go. We just need right-of-way, so that's the only thing holding us up with that project. Everything else is there. We've got, again, a commitment from Little Cal for $345,000, which is half the anticipated construction cost for that project, and anticipate that will be done this summer. I attended the MS Rhino meeting with Stormwater Board President Bud Christ. We had over 300 attendees. It was a big event. It's always good to learn and get out there and, you know, for professional development purposes. And we did get some acknowledgments there as well. Independence Health, third edition. Robinson Engineering is about 30% design on that. So they'll keep working on that. That's an entire redesign of the entire subdivision drainage. So it's a pretty big project. We'll have to seek other funds for the construction costs for that. The tilapia are delayed about a week for Bon Air, so they'll go in pretty soon. I've been working with Steve, too. This is part of the Community Development Block Grant. You mentioned Andrean, just to the north there at 58th and Massachusetts Street. We've got new sidewalks going in and other improvements in the right-of-way. It looks a lot different now, and it's going to continue.
Great.
Yeah, so again, another good use of the Community Development Block Grant money. And again, an improvement around the Andrean area. This allows residents from the apartments to get out to Broadway without walking the middle of the street, things like that. So it's a good improvement for that area. Also, I'm excited about the new ARP application that's going to be coming out soon. There's a provision in there for residents to implement practices and reroute their plumbing to prevent sanitary backups in their basement. So I anticipate that will be out soon, and we'll advertise that accordingly. I've already reached out to the sanitary districts in anticipation of that. And we've been planting the town orchards, the two orchards, 279 trees at Rosenbaum and at Prusen. We did actually rent a auger bit, 36-inch auger bit out there, so we've been working on that today. There's also they planted 1,000 saplings at the Merrillville schools, various schools today, through the Student Conservation Association and as a part of the U.S. Forest Service grant that we got, so. Other than
Did
that,
you
I
get
do
1,000 in the ground today, Matt?
1,000, yeah.
Oh, wow.
There's going to be an article in the paper tomorrow.
I bet.
think, about it.
Okay. Quite a feet.
And then I got the IDM Clean Community signs, so I'll get with Steve and we'll put the new ones up and get them posted.
Nice.
That's fine. That's it for now.
Thank you. It's a lot. Fire Territory Board, Councilors Neal and Hardaway.
I will have the chief speak now. Thank you, Mr. President.
Ed, while you're walking up, I do want to ask a question of everybody. You mentioned 2 new firefighters. Is there some kind of board action we need to take? So I need clarity on that. Can Joe or Keisha?
That's the question that I have as well.
Oh, we talked today.
We did.
Chief.
Thank you, Ms. Hardaway. Mr. President, I'm going to start with an apology. If anybody was traveling on Broadway today between 1:30 and 4:30, traffic was backed up on Broadway between 73rd and 109th. Or if you're traveling on 30, Route 30 from I-65 westbound to Broadway, we did have a semi-fire just south of US 30 on I-65 today. This gentleman's truck caught on fire hauling furniture, a 52-foot trailer full of furniture. He decided to stop in the lane of traffic, so we ended up having to shut almost the entire highway down. So if anybody was curious what was going on, it ended up with about 100 gallons of diesel fuel on the ground, and by the time we got done using about 4,000 gallons of water, we had IDM out there, NDOT, all that good stuff. So we did expedite as quickly as possible, but it was a huge mess. So if anybody's wondering what happened, that's what happened today. Yeah, it was quite the mess. As far as the Fire Territory Board goes, we will have a meeting, I believe it's June 11th, and that meeting is for the sole purpose of the 2024 Fire Territory bonds, and that was asked for by our bond counsel, Barnes and Thorburg. We will have other business, but that meeting is, I believe it's going to be scheduled for 4 p.m. on June 11th. Yesterday, we did have our memorial services, our annual memorial services. I was well attended by the public. We did serve them lunch. It was nice to see the public come out and interact with some of our firemen. And I only have a couple more things, though. Tomorrow at the community center, Thursday, and Friday, we will be doing training with the University of Chicago medical helicopter. So if anybody sees the helicopter landing at the community center, it's going to land every day the next 3 days at noon. We're being trained on landing zones like we do every year. So we'll be spending a time in the classroom at the community center for an hour, and then the helicopter will land, and we'll do our practical training. So just a matter of public notice that nothing's happening there, nothing bad's happening. It's just a big noisy helicopter landing for 3 days straight. And, Mr. President, I do have 2 ordinances that are coming up. I can sit down and speak. I just wanted to clarify the one additional appropriation because it is for a high dollar value. I can do that now or I can wait.
No, go ahead, please.
Okay. The first ordinance would be in the fire equipment cell tower fund. We made the error. We usually budget around $20,000 for fire prevention supplies. It was an error. We did not do that this year in the discretionary line item. So we're just trying to clean that up because every year we do spend about $20,000, and we do use that fund for all the supplies for the schools and for our fire prevention and education programs. That's the little one. Ordinance 2419 is for an additional appropriation into our cumulative fund at the fire territory for $500,000. We are not spending $500,000 out of our cum fund reserve. We're using it until the 2024 bonds come in the middle of September. The Territory Board did pass a reimbursement resolution so we can reimburse ourselves with the funds when they do come in. The reason we had to rush this along is because we were offered a significant savings for our breathing apparatus. And there was a deadline on that. It was an offer that expired on May 31st. So we had to make the purchase ahead of time to save approximately $65,000 on our purchase. That is about $365,000 of that $500,000. The rest is for engineering and design for the North Fire Station remodel and the storage Maintenance and Firefighter Wellness Center that's going to be built behind the 73rd Avenue Fire Station. The council did approve ARP money for this. However, since we did not go out for bid, in which we are allowed to by law for services, we couldn't use federal money, and ARP, if I'm correct, was federal money. So
Yes.
I will be asking the ARP committee or whoever I need to talk to about reallocating that for another part of the project. But that's where the $500,000 comes
That
in.
will be Counselor Neal.
Okay, yeah. So with that, that's all I have. I can answer any questions if needed.
The two firefighters.
Yeah, the two firefighters that you requested, you sent an email about for next year for the budget. Will that be coming out of the fire territory budget, or will it be coming out of the general fund for the?
We're requesting it comes from other revenues outside of the fire territory. There's no way we are taxed, and there's no way we can hire any more full-time firefighters. So with my 5-year plan that I turned into the town for capital improvements and the manpower issue, it outlines 2 firefighters for the next 5 years, and this is just simply the first request for discussion, and I wanted to get in early for the budget process to see, because it is sorely needed, obviously. And with the opening of the North Fire Station, once it's completed, that's a 7-month project. We're anticipating to get construction started on that by October, because we are doing the design for that station parallel with the bond funds, so hopefully we'll be able to go out for bid, get the money, and we'll go. So with that station, we don't have the manpower to staff it outside of part-time help. So this is just nibbling at the big problem of our manpower issues and asking for two firefighters a year for the next 5 years,
Full-time?
full-time.
Chief, off the top of your head, can you give us an estimate of what it costs to hire and equip one full-time firefighter?
Maximum for the salary and maxing the longevity and all, maxing insurance estimates for a family in the max, it's right around $105,000 a person. Equipping that firefighter, we have money within our budget for the safety equipment, which, by the way, to outfit one firefighter is about $6,000 now, where it used to be $2,500, from the helmets all the way down to the boots and all the equipment that goes along with it. So price of poker's gone up, but we can't afford that. We can afford the equipment, we just can't afford the manpower.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else?
That is all, President Bella. Thank you.
Anything else to add, Mrs. Neal?
No.
Moving on tonight to department reports. Mr. January, did you have a department report from the clerk treasurer's office tonight?
Thank you, Mr. President. I noted in our budget, which is the responsibility of the council, that we're at 54% of our budget for the year. So I think we're doing a good job, but we're just at we're not finished with the 6th month. And I believe that we'll probably have to do some more appropriations down the road. And just in terms of that, the town is moving in the right direction. I think that despite some of the decisions we make, we're in pretty good shape.
That's good to hear. Thank you. Parks and Recreation?
Thank you,
Lisa.
Mr. President. First of all, I just want to give a recap of what Councilman Hardaway said. We do still need some staffing. We actually have hired 2 event staff members to help out in the event side. We are looking to find a janitor to come and help us, preferably something overnight where he can do the work or she can do the work without having any interruptions of anybody in the building, so we wouldn't have to close it down. I have checked in with window cleaning companies. I have a couple more estimates coming through. I also checked with some companies on parking lot restriping. They're going to be sending me a new estimate, and we are still looking for comprehensive cleaning just as a backup for the janitorial. And we lost our full-time site supervisor, so we're probably going to be needing either a part-time or a full-time site supervisor. And at that time, and I appreciate the vote of confidence for the acting assistant director. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions for Lisa?
Mr. President, I am remiss in my committee report, Lisa. We got these, Barb Young, our event coordinator, at your place. We got all these cards, these thank yous, and very interested reading from children on their impressions of the Dean and Barbara White Community Center and what we've provided to them.
They're at your chair tonight, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying
You
they
got it.
were during the fire, the apartment fire.
Apartment fire, yeah.
These are from those kids.
Those kids, yeah. The Red Cross, yeah.
That's great. Police Department, Chief Nuisance.
Thank you, Mr. President. We haven't gotten our official numbers yet, but as of today for May, we're right around the 2,500 calls for service mark. We've had approximately 480 traffic stops. I don't know what the ticket number is, as it's not the end of the month, so we don't have a count. One of the things that I wanted to bring up, as we have been seeing, it's pretty repetitive over the years, right around the end of May or when the weather starts getting nicer, you start seeing a spike in calls. So we were experiencing 70-plus calls for service during the daytime shifts, and that's, if it's indicative of anything that we've seen in the past, we're going to start flirting in that 4,000 calls for service range again from June, July, August, like we've seen in the past. So I do understand that we have some concerns with speeding and whatnot. Bear with us, we'll get to them as soon as we can, but some of them are going to have to be, we're going to have to address some of these other calls first. We're in the process of making arrangements to prepare for summer festivities, 4th of July and whatnot. We also got a couple other things that we're working with, trying to get, I guess, more likely to what I talked about earlier, just try and prepare for this summer. It's going to be busy. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Planning and Building, Ms. Shine.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just two things worth noting about the town. The Golden Corral has experienced an exterior remodel. They painted it. It looks very nice. They will be opening soon. They've been closed since COVID. Also, Bob Pillman and myself, we met with Mecca Engineering, who is the contractors on the CarQuest building that's next to M&M. They should be starting on that very soon. It is, as I tell the owner every time he calls me and says he hasn't found the contractor, I tell him it's an eyesore to the town. So we're happy to see that he's getting ready to start on that building. Thank you, Mr. President.
Sheila, do you have an update on the, what I like to call the old Ponderosa building? We had approved a petitioner to go in there. And
So-
are they working in there yet?
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, Bob Pillman and I had a conversation with the manager, and she sent a letter back stating that she's going to work on the parking lot and that they were working on the inside of the building, the Ponderosa building. And I told her that they needed to get started with the outside of it, cleaning it up and making sure that the graffiti goes away. She says that they take the graffiti off, but they put it back on. But I told her that maybe they need to start doing a little more on the outside, and the graffiti people won't put the graffiti on. Also, she said that they had several proposals on fixing the parking lot. And so she was supposed to get back with us because Mr. Pillman would like to see the fire lanes marked and all of that to keep people from parking in the fire lane at that in that plaza, because people just pull up there and park in the fire lane and go in the store, go in the Family Dollar. And so we asked that they put the fire stripes back in there that says fire lane. So, yes, I'll forward the council that email that she sent about all of that.
Maybe I know the chief stepped down for a second, maybe let chief know also about people parking there, and we can kind of keep an eye out.
Okay.
I have a question, Sheila. The Golden Corral, is that underneath the same ownership in the franchise?
No, it's not. It's a new owner.
It's a new owner?
Yes.
When did he acquire it, he or she?
I don't know when he acquired it. I do know that, well, there's a story behind it, of course. They were working out there without a permit, and of course, we caught them. And they came in and got licensed, and they pulled a permit in order to do the interior and exterior remodel of the building. So I'm not sure when they acquired it, but I know they are not the same owners.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a fine for those type of individuals, companies that do things like that if they
Oh,
get
sure. We get them pretty good. According to the ordinance, the first time is $250, But we had a building out just in, off of Mississippi on Louisiana that we call them 5 times. Every time we stop them, they go back, and we've got like $3,000 off of that building. So we do fine.
Okay. Is there a number of times that they can do that before they like not able to continue on with their?
So what they normally do is, if you put one group of contractors out, and tell them that they need to come in and get licensed, and they don't come in and get licensed, they'll send another group of contractors in. And between Mr. Pillman and Mr. Brown, we're busy. We caught people today, 68th and Broadway, at the gas station there. They were painting and working on the car wash in the back. So it's a daily thing to catch people working without a permit. You just have to keep going. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Street Department and Engineering, Mr. King.
Okay, so the speed humps have been going in. Just about everybody's reached out to me with locations. We're always looking for more. As you know, we ordered double the speed humps that we had last year. So we have plenty of speed humps to put in. So as soon as you have additional locations, just let me know. The contractor's working on those. 61st Avenue construction project, it is ongoing. I expect the concrete restoration work to be finished this week. Asphalt patching will start next week. Then we'll begin the resurfacing project. You're probably still 4 weeks out from getting that project done. I do want to say this before I forget. I did get a call from CN Railroad this morning. They are going to redo the railroad tracks on Hendrick Street.
Yes.
That is actually going to start Monday. I sent the detour route out to Chas and Chief Newsis and Chief Yurga. So they're aware of it, but that is going to start Monday, June 3rd, and run through the 19th. I didn't get it to you, Matt. I didn't send it to you, but I will. That's going to run through the 19th. They're also getting me in touch with the transportation representative. We talked about advanced warning signals, 73rd and on 57th. So when the trains are blocking the tracks, rather than have our first responders or school buses go down there, they're forewarned that the tracks are blocked. I did talk to a gentleman today. He informed me that wasn't his department, it was transportation, and he's going to give me a contact for that. The planting is complete. They finished the planting actually this afternoon. So now we're in maintenance mode with watering and weeding, and I don't know if anybody's noticed, but things look really well. We've ordered the 4th planter for the community center. That's been done. The baskets have been delivered. Those are all hung up. What else I got? We've had our street sweepers out working. We've also been picking up a lot of trash, and when I mean trash, I mean couches, mattresses, dressers, especially the Whitcomb Townhome area is just horrible. And we were there last week and took 2 truckloads of stuff. I don't know who's supposed to be picking it up, but we end up doing it. And I was by there today before I came here, and there's more stuff out there already. So this is an ongoing battle. It strains our resources. I mean, I don't know who's responsible for that, but it's an ongoing problem, along with signs. The We Buy Houses signs, I mean, we pick them up daily, and soon they put them out faster than we can pick them up, and this is another problem. Also, we've been mowing a lot of abandoned lots. Code enforcement keeps bringing them in. I'm going to get with Mr. Griffin here in the next couple days. It's becoming overwhelming. I think we're up to about 30 now that we're mowing, on top of all the other stuff we have to do. I'd like to get with Mr. Griffin with the list that we have and talk about contracting that out to lift some of that burden off of our staff. I think that's it.
Thank you, Steve. Town Manager, Mr. Griffin.
Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the council, Mr. Clerk Treasurer, thank you. I've already issued to you my monthly staff report. This is the one that is called for in our municipal code, section 2-39.1, which required monthly reports from staff. You have a complete summary of each of them that were submitted to me that's there. With your leave, Mr. President, I want to call your attention to one matter that's in there, but I encourage you all to read it at your leisure. There's a lot of information in there, and I found them interesting to read from the ones that didn't emanate from any department under my direct aegis. And then another matter to report. You recall at your last council meeting, I explained the absence of the executive director of the Stormwater Management Department. He was attending training and participating in a professional association with MS4. It turns out there was more going on there. I just want to call your attention, as he reports here, he did accept an award on behalf of his department, but it's really Mr. Lake. For the MS4 Partnership Award for Excellence, he did host the Northwest Indiana Contractors and Developers Certification Training Program through an entity that he and his colleague from Hobart, Tim Kingsland, founded, the Northwest Indiana Stormwater Advisory Group. And we're very proud of our executive director. We just think that he wants you to know about this by reading about it. It's not going to bring it to your attention. So I want to embarrass him in front of you, if I might, because we're proud that he's part of our group. And in all candor, it's not my intention to embarrass him, but I want to call to your attention the wonderful array of department heads that you have here, and he's among them. I do want to remind you that with leave from the chair of the Budget and Finance Committee, we did have an excellent meeting last Friday, and I was impressed that we took as much time as we did in advance of the long holiday weekend, but we had a thorough discussion, I believe, and we did get some instruction. I do want to have a meeting with the staff, the department heads about that, but I do want to brief, and I want the fiscal advisor to be with me. We want to brief the council, so we're going to ask the president, with leave from the members of the Budget and Finance Committee, that one of the items at our next work session, please, be our briefing of you about the authorization we got from the Budget and Finance Committee and the steps we're going to take for the coming year as our budget plan. I think we got excellent guidance. We made a case for them. I think that was thoughtful, the discussion, and I'm happy that they embraced the recommendation. But we'd like to brief the full council on it because it will be a path we've not taken before. And then I'd like to go to the staff. So there's a good chance that tomorrow's meeting is going to staff meeting, which is our standing staff meeting, will be delayed, canceled for tomorrow, but be held another day so that I get a chance to brief the council before we raise this with the department heads, which need to be briefed. If there's no objection, I will sit down unless there's a question about something else in my report.
Thank you, Michael.
I thank you all.
Moving on tonight to general orders, we have first reading ordinances, ordinance 24-19. It's an ordinance of the town of Merrillville authorizing additional appropriations within the fire equipment fund. This is what Chief Yurga was referring to earlier at the podium. It is, the amount is $500,000 going into the building improvements fund.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pettit, seconded by Ms. Hardaway for approval of ordinance 24-19. Questions or comments from the council? Hearing none. Mr. January, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. President. Vice President Neal.
Yes.
Councilwoman Haynes Edwards. Councilwoman Chandler Felton.
Aye.
Councilwoman Uselak.
Aye.
Councilman Pettit.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hardaway.
Aye.
President Bella.
Aye.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, that motion carries. Pettit and Hardaway. Moving on tonight to ordinance 24-20. It's an enactment appropriating additional money in excess of the annual budget for the town donation fund. You see there are various amounts. The increases are for job fair, $15,000, 4th of July, $10,000, Black History Month, $26,000, Juneteenth, $7,000.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Griffin, add that column up for me real quick, please.
Mr. President,
Total looks off.
I believe that it is 65 and some, or 70, it's $58,500. It's more than that. I see that now.
2532.
That number needed to be corrected, and we said, glad this is first reading. I will give you that quickly.
Sure, thank you.
I wanted to speak to it if there are
Didn't have the
questions
right
about it.
feeling to me.
Your feeling was well-informed.
It's 58 flat.
32.
It's 58 even, isn't it?
It's 58,000.
58 flat.
Yes, it's 58 flat. Which it says is the total on the bottom. It's just incorrect in the series, which we can correct in the second reading.
Yeah,
Mr. President, this is actually a step that we want to take. We're going to work with the Clerk Treasurer's Office eventually to have a donation fund policy. But as you know, the State Board of Accounts basically indicates that, and the guidance that you get on this can vary depending on the field examiner. But the general policy is once we've accepted a donation, it is appropriated for the purpose for which it was granted. There is some discussion as to whether or not it has to be a particular matter, meaning if I said I'm giving something for the town council, that might not be sufficiently particular enough to not require the council to take a step to appropriate it. If I said I'm going to do something for town council chairs, that may be more particular. It depends on the local fiscal officer. It was my practice to basically say that I felt like saying that it was for the police department was use enough. It gets complicated when gifts get complicated. You have to keep track of the gifts that are given when you accept it. We should have an acceptance policy. In this particular case, we're aware of that because of the software we use to track the budgeting, it expects an appropriation for every expenditure, whether it required it or not. And we don't have a defined policy for the fiscal officer to use. Some of this, I think, is because our incumbent has been here a brief time. I'm confident that he's going to master this at some point. But we thought we would take this step to correct for currently what our credit balances and appropriations for cash that we receive for these purposes that has been expended but looks on our appropriation ledger as if we took steps without an appropriation. This step gives clear guidance from the council that your intention was for these amounts to be spent in those areas. And these will actually neutralize out to something closer to the real cash you have on deposit there. We feel that this is an important step until we get a policy about that. The council is expressing its intention, which it ought to. It's the fiscal body. So even though these amounts look like they're significant, you have in many cases already expended this. This is to ratify the work you've done. 36-1-4, Section 16 authorizes actions that if it could have been done the right way the first time, if you do it afterwards, it is acceptable. And this is the process you would need if you had done it in advance. So we're confident that we're within the confines of the statute. And I was showing off to tell you I knew that statute. I admit that. Once in a while, I feel I have to do that. But we're asking your favor on this. It's really sort of a cleanup measure. It is only for first reading. We'll make sure that the second version of this gets to you without a change except a correction in the math for both numbers. But we hope that you'll favor it and understand why we're presenting it to you in this way at this time.
Does this also satisfy the State Board of Accounts? If they take
This is going further. They would have liked, yes, let me just say it's shorthand. There's a lot of other explanations I can give you, but I think yes is good. Some economy of speech would be good for me tonight.
Very good. Chair, I'll entertain a motion.
We have a motion and a second, Mr. President.
Oh, who was it?
Myself and Shauna.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any other discussion on first reading of this ordinance 24-20? Hearing none, Mr. January, would you mind calling the roll?
Yes, Mr. President. Vice President Neal.
Yes.
Councilwoman Haynes Edwards.
Aye.
Councilwoman Chandler Felton.
Aye.
Councilwoman Uselak.
Aye.
Councilman Pettit.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hardaway.
Aye.
President Bella.
Aye.
7 in favor.
7-0, the motion carries. Thank you all. Moving on tonight to ordinance 24-21. It's an ordinance authorizing the additional appropriation within the 2024 Fire Equipment Cell Tower Fund. The amount is $20,000. Again, this was something that Chief Yurga addressed to us earlier at the podium.
Motion to approve ordinance 24-21.
Motion by Mrs. Neal,
Second.
second by Mrs. Felton, Chandler Felton. Questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none. Mr. January, roll call, please.
Yes. Vice President Neal.
Yes.
Councilwoman Haynes Edwards.
Aye.
Councilwoman Chandler Felton.
Aye.
Councilwoman Uselak.
Aye.
Councilman Pettit.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hardaway.
Aye.
President Bella.
Aye.
7 in favor.
7-0, motion carries. Moving on tonight to second reading ordinances, we have a ordinance 24-13. We already took care of 24-12 earlier in the evening. This ordinance is amending Town Code, Chapter 13, Article 1, entitled Nuisance in General, and repealing all Town Code sections and ordinances or parts thereof in conflict herewith. Mr. Svetnoff, why did I say all those legal terms?
Mr. President, at this time, we're introducing this ordinance on second reading. This establishes definitions for nuisances. It also establishes illustrations. There's a notice of bringing into compliance certain structures that's enumerated in the code itself. Abatement by, there's a section that has to do with abatement by town and recovery of costs. There's a failure to maintain or otherwise keep in good stead houses, building, and structures. There's a enumerated violations and penalty section and establishes the hearing authority. So at this time, this gives the town, specifically through the police department and through the town itself, the tools necessary to take care of nuisances within the town.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Uselak with a second by Mr. Pettit for approval of ordinance 24-13 on second and final reading. Chief Nucis, does this give you the teeth that you were looking for code enforcement?
As soon as it gets publicated, yes, sir.
Questions or comments from the council? Is there any public comment on this ordinance, 24-13? Seeing none, Mr. January, roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Vice President Neal.
Yes.
Councilwoman Haynes Edwards.
Aye.
Councilwoman Chandler Felton.
Aye.
Councilwoman Uselak.
Aye.
Councilman Pettit.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hardaway.
Aye.
President Bella.
Aye.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, that motion carries. Thank you all. Moving on, also on second reading tonight, ordinance 24-14. It's an ordinance of the town of Merrillville establishing and authorizing the office of Vice President of the Town Council pursuant to a variety of Indiana codes as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pettit, seconded by Councilor Hardaway for approval of ordinance 24-14. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. January, roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Vice President Neal.
Yes.
Councilwoman Haynes Edwards.
Aye.
Councilwoman Chandler Felton.
Aye.
Councilwoman Uselak.
Aye.
Councilman Pettit.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hardaway.
Aye.
7 in favor. President Bella.
I guess that was 6 in favor.
Right. Well, President Bella.
Aye.
Aye. 7 in favor.
Thank you. The motion carries. Also tonight, we have ordinance 24-15. It's an ordinance amending the Town Code, Chapter 7.5, entitled Fire and Hazardous Materials Safety, and repealing all Town Code sections and ordinance or parts thereof in conflict herewith. Attorney Svetnoff.
Mr. President, through close work with our fire department and I think our police department as well, we are adopting on second reading 24-15. This deals with the hazardous materials and repealing all ordinances they're in conflict with. We established a definitional section, deal with false fire calls, penalties for such, and really Knox box locations. It's quite a meaty ordinance, but I think it gives those agencies the ability to enforce our ordinances evenly and fairly. So at this time, I encourage its approval.
Thank you, Joe.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Neal, second, by Mrs. Uselak, second by Mrs. Neal, excuse me, for approval of 24-15. Chief Yurgun, does this satisfy your needs for hazardous materials?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Discussions? I'll say something, Sean, for you and your committee and also the rest of the counselors. I know we've been working on this stuff for quite some time, but this is the kind of meat and teeth we need to allow police department and code enforcement to do their jobs out there. I know it took a lot of work, but it was really necessary, so thank you all for working on these ordinances. Mr. January, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Vice President Neal,
Yes.
Councilwoman Haynes Edwards,
Aye.
Councilwoman Chandler Felton,
Aye.
Councilwoman Uselak,
Aye.
Councilman Pettit,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hardaway,
Aye.
President Bella.
Aye.
7 in favor.
7-0, motion carries. Also tonight, we have ordinance 24-16. It's an ordinance amending Town Code, Chapter 4, entitled Ambulances and Emergency Services and Systems, and repealing all other Town Code sections and ordinances, or parts thereof in conflict herewith. Mr. Svetnov.
Basically, this establishes, again, in coordination with the fire department, establishes kind of a service charge rate schedule for municipal ambulance services. That's the big takeaway out of this ordinance. So at this time, Mr. President, we encourage you to accept and pass the ordinance on second reading.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Uselak. Who was the second? Haynes Edwards.
Neal.
For approval. Michael, we've done second reading on all these, or public comment on all these, haven't we, last time?
These don't involve additional appropriations, so I'm not clear. I think your practice has been to have comment on second reading.
Okay.
So I believe that there was just the explanation to the public, whatever they may have said from comments from the public notwithstanding, I don't believe we gave them special comment time.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this ordinance, 24-16? Anything else from the council? Mr. January.
Yes, Mr. President. All
Roll
right.
call, please.
Vice President Neal,
Yes.
Councilwoman Haynes Edwards,
Aye.
Councilwoman Chandler Felton,
Aye.
Councilwoman Uselak,
Aye.
Councilman Pettit,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hardaway,
Aye.
President Bella.
Aye.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, the motion carries. Thank you all. Moving on tonight to our last ordinance of the evening, 24-18. It's an ordinance to amend sections 2-135 through 2-139 of the Code of Ordinances for the Town of Merrillville, State of Indiana, to revise the Merrillville Purchasing Code, all pursuant to Indiana Code 36-1-5.
Motion to approve ordinance 24-18.
Thank you, Mrs. Neal. Just
Second.
Last ordinance, guys. We can get through it. I think we can.
Yeah, I thought he was still.
Second by Mr. Pettit. It's the last one. Hang in there. Mr. Griffin, anything to add on this purchasing ordinance that you helped us put together?
Mr. President, I have nothing to add. It will just, largely, its goal is to update the current code, which has not been updated in this particular component since 1997, when the state law was changed that encouraged cities and towns throughout Indiana to adopt the new standard. I am hopeful that the council will favor this ordinance in second reading and adopt it. Except for penalties that are within, it can become immediately in effect, and we will do training again, although I did introduce the concepts in it to the last staff meeting. Other than that, unless there's a particular question, I'm proud to have submitted it for your consideration.
Mr. January, did you have a chance to review this 24-page document?
Yes, and
Any
my
questions or
staff
comments?
did. No comments. I think, as he mentioned, it was long overdue, some of the suggestions that he's made.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council? Is there any public comment on ordinance 24-18, establishing a purchasing code? Seeing none, Mr. January, roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Vice President Neal,
Yes.
Councilwoman Haynes Edwards,
Aye.
Councilwoman Chandler Felton,
Aye.
Councilwoman Uselak,
Aye.
Councilman Pettit,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hardaway,
Aye.
President Bella.
Aye.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, which means that motion carries.
I thank the council.
Moving on tonight to resolutions, we have a resolution 24-12. It's a resolution providing for the transfer of appropriation balances from among major budget classifications in the administration and police departments of the general fund as requested by the proper officer and forwarded to the town council for its action pursuant to code 6-1.1-18-6. We have a variety of decreases and increases there. It is double-sided, council.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pettit with a second by Mrs. Uszak for approval of this resolution. Questions or comments? Anything to add, Mr. Griffin?
No, Mr. President, except to say that this doesn't have any net increase in the overall budget as adopted. May God bless you all day, or however your cosmic anxiety is assuaged. It will have no effect over the overall budget that was adopted by the council in terms of its cost. One of the increases is to support the reimbursement process that the Legacy Foundation gives us. We're going to post these because we needed to get an appropriation in place to start making the purchases that were authorized by both the Dean and Barbara White Committee as well as the council back in April. So we needed to get this in place. The next step will be to authorize some of those purchases to move forward, and they will be reimbursed by the Legacy Foundation from the farsightedness of creating the capital fund, supported by the sponsorships that were pursued. So we'll be drawing down in the amount of $75,717, and that will be replaced either there, if the council wishes, or in another location of the general fund, but this money will be deposited in the general fund because that's where the expense arose. It can't be immediately reappropriated because it involves not a reimbursement from an insurance or restitution, but the council will have authority to put that back. In terms of the other ones, these are some changes that we're asking for in the police department that will be in anticipation of a request we're going to make for you in a future meeting.
Thank you. We have a motion?
I believe
So moved.
We did?
we had one. Mhm.
Why am I not writing it down?
Did I write that motion?
Hang on.
I made the motion.
Motion by Mr. Pettit, seconded by Mrs. Uszak. My bad. It's on the other side.
Say my bad.
Any questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, this is a resolution. Voice vote is proper. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion carries, Mr. Griffin.
I thank the council.
Is any old business before us tonight?
Yes.
Mr. President, there's one item under, there's a letter from Robinson Engineering.
There is.
This letter is from Robinson Engineer, and it says, "Dear Sheila, Robinson Engineer received the electrical inspection reports on May 8, 2024. The town's electrical inspector performed the inspections on May 7, 2024, and found the street lights, light poles, and lighting in the Merrillville are operational and agree that there are no issues found. The site meets the town ordinance, and we therefore recommend the maintenance bond to be released for this development. In addition, it is my recommendation that the town accepts the street lights and the poles within the right-of-way into the town's inventory. Should you have any questions, please contact me at your convenience. Very truly yours, Robert Zaney."
Mr. President, make a motion to accept the letter from Robinson and take the streetlights at Ameriplex at the crossroads into the inventory
And release the bond.
and release the bond.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Pettit. The second by Mrs. Uszak. Mr. King, you feel okay with this?
Yes, I do. We did an inspection. Sheila and I have been going back and forth with the electrical inspectors. Sheila has sent them out, verified everything. They just rewired that whole thing, I don't know, in the last couple of years, so.
Last year.
Everything's been verified by the electrical inspectors. Everything's up to date, so yes.
So the rewiring, those are some of the issues that they had there, right, Sean? Some of those lights were out.
Yep, and they've only, that's not sold or already being built. Holiday's told me they only have 20 acres left out of the 400.
Wow,
So it's,
very good.
very proud of that park.
Any other discussion from the council on this motion to take over these lights in our town inventory and release the bond? Hearing none, Mr. Svetnov, was a voice vote okay with this?
Voice vote is okay.
All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, Mr. Pettit.
Thank you.
We have no new business tonight before us.
Mr. President, under old business, and I hate to kind of ambush Steve. Steve, where are we at with the street paving rating and what Robinson's doing?
So I have the estimates. I've received the estimates for the street paving. What we did, we took our street map. It's rated by a Paisley rating. We took the lowest rated streets, the ones and twos. We worked up quantities for them. I have them. And I would like to present that along with the map at the next council workshop, if I could.
That's fine. In the meantime, Mr. Griffin, can we look at funding sources to do another 5 million or so of street paving?
Yes, sir. Will a bake sale be? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. That, or we could sell some squad cars, whatever we need to do. Thank you. Sheila, no BZA or large gatherings tonight?
No, sir, Mr. President.
Thanks. Open for the public. Any public comment tonight? If so, please come to the podium, state your name and address.
I wanted to comment just really briefly on old business. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you to the president, because the stuff with, in regards to the ordinance 2417, I called him about it, or I texted him about it today, and he obviously talked to the attorney, Stettinoff, and he provided some documentation that I still have to investigate, because the whole objective of it was to avoid any public acrimony. So I just wanted to acknowledge, thank you for doing that. But at the same time, I am still certainly investigating to make sure that my right to vote, to cast a tie-break and vote, wasn't violated. But I do appreciate the effort. I want to make that comment, and thank you, Ross Township trustee, for being in the audience tonight.
Mr. Bryan? Oh, sure.
Yes, good evening. I also wanted to talk about the courts, but since we were going to do a new reading on the courts, I did have documentation and information regarding the reevaluation of the court system, but I do feel that it's unfair that Mr. January was not informed that he was eligible to put his vote in last time, but brought that to the attention of this meeting. So I was prepared to make some evaluation and some information regarding the courts, because I personally work for the traffic court in county. So I do have enough background to understand and to explain different situations that this court may be missing as to what we could expand our court system and not think of the past errors that we did, but the future to make our court system better for the town of Merrillville. Thank you.
Brian Messarch, 201 East 68th Place. First and foremost, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but code enforcement, Tiffany Thomas, ballistic vests. It's been over 2 months. I've been bringing this up every meeting. Do we have any progress on this?
We're still waiting on the representative to come and.
What's the name of the company? I'll see if I can get a hold of them and see if I can get them down here.
It's Point Blank.
All right. I know that you're super busy, so maybe I can get someone down here to help square that away. Anything I can do to help, because this is safety and wellness, and we need to make sure that everybody is taken care of. Number two, the idea of Andran, that is a religious private institution. There is no reason, they don't pay property taxes, they don't add any revenue to there's no economic, they're not even in a TIF zone. There's zero reason why the town of Merrillville should be giving them a gift at all. $1 million, you know what we could use $1 million for? Police officers, so that we don't have to take a summertime break for traffic. We should have an entire traffic division. Just the other day, I watched 3 cars go through a red light because people are that impatient. You know what we could use $1 million for? Firefighters. Heck, not 2 every year. Let's do 3 every year and make sure we're all safe. We got all these new warehouses and stuff down there that could burn down. We should be thinking in those terms. How can we make our public safety better? How can we make our sidewalks better? That's what, and I think to Mr. January's point, there are other money we could be spending money on than a private institution like Andran. Nothing against Andran. Andran is a fine institution. It's slightly less than Merrillville Pirates, but that's a personal opinion. And we should not have to spend money on that. They can take care of themselves. It should be fine. As far as the courts go, an abstention is the same as being absent. So, you would take the vote away. It's a 3-3-6. There's no majority. Eric January becomes the tiebreaker. That's how Robert's
Absolutely
rules
not.
work.
We disagree with your opinion, but thank you.
I appreciate your disagreement, but since you worked so diligently on closing the court down and all that, it would have been prudent for us to have a different attorney and a different law firm, kind of just double check, make sure everything's copacetic. That would have been, because no one gets to double check their own work. If I were to double check my work, it would be perfect every time. And that would work out well for me, but not maybe everybody else. It's just a matter of being fair.
It's not over, Brian.
Finally, we should actually have a motion and nominations for vice president since that new office has just been created. That way, we can at the very least make sure everything is, all the i's are dotted, the t's are crossed, and, there's no complaints. I appreciate the vice president's role being created. I was harping on that for quite a bit last year, so thank you on that.
Good evening.
Good evening.
President Bella,
How you doing?
Clerk Treasurer, January, how you doing? Merrillville Council, how y'all doing tonight?
All right.
My name is Eric Blackman. I am the Ross Township trustee. My address is 7431 Wilson Place. The reason that I'm here this evening is to talk about Independence Park. Earlier was a comment made that the park was not well kept. I have 30 pictures in my phone to dispute that. I'm responsible for Independence here in Merrillville, Skinner here in Merrillville, and also Hidden Lake in Merrillville. And I do also supervise a park in Hobart, Indiana, that is Green Acres. And I rest assured that all my parks are immaculate, from grass to garbage and everything. So I don't know why the comment was made this evening about Independence Park. I went out and took pictures. I have 30 pictures in my phone to dispute that. Up until April of last year, April 2023, you can't even see the pond. What I did was I hired a company to go out and just clear the front of the park. The front of the park is clear. You can see right through there. People can fish. They can even go around the side of a little bank and they can fish over there. So I'm just here to defend myself and to defend the park. So I would like to ask Ms. Uslak, what was the complaint at Independence Park, ma'am?
Well, I had a complaint about 3 weeks ago from two gentlemen. They said they usually go out there and they fish, but the weeds were so high surrounding the park and the pond or the little lake, whatever it was, that they were ready to go down and chop down those weeds. So I called our town thinking that they were responsible, and I found out it went through the town trustee
Yes, ma'am.
department. So I brought it up tonight, hoping that something would be done. Now, you are bringing something completely different to me. I drove by there a couple weeks ago. I seen a lot of weeds in the background of that park surrounding it. So I don't know, when did you supposedly cut down those weeds?
Well, actually, Marge, I didn't supposedly cut down the weeds.
No, I said you did. When?
The weeds have been cut since last year. If I have pictures on my phone, I would love to show you pictures in my phone.
No, I'll drive by there again.
Okay, you can drive by. You
Okay,
can
I
see there's a opening right when you ride past Independence. I mean, I live 1 block from you. I mean, I live
Well, I
right.
live just a few blocks away, too.
Okay, exactly. So
Okay,
that
guys, come on,
means-
let's finish up.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
kind of silly.
it's not silly.
We weren't
President
complaining
Bella.
about the township and
It's
that
not-
they didn't do a bad
President
job.
Bella,
You
it's not
just brought it
silly.
up.
It's
So,
not silly. I'm here to defend myself. That's it.
you know,
I
That's it.
just brought it up.
What's silly
because
about
it was
defending
a
myself?
surprise to me that you were in charge of it. I never
Surprise.
had a problem with that park before.
It's no problems at the park. Before
Okay.
April of 2023, it was weeds around the whole park. Now it's a clear opening to the pond.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that you did cut it down. I will be out there to check. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
I guess you don't have to call now.
No,
Okay.
somebody must be listening to us.
Moving on to announcements, the next council meeting will be June 11th at 6:30. The RDC meeting Tuesday, May 28th at 6:15. No, that's
June 11th at 6 o'clock,
June 11th, sorry.
special meeting.
That is all we have. Everything else was announced. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Oh.